was the approach? So you decided it will be France. What you have done next?
Hola. Okay. It was a lot. So we decided it was going to be France. I spoke French already to like a B1 level. And so I picked it back up again because I hadn't
Très
actively
bien.
studied in a couple of years to get kind of around to the B2 level before we came here. We can talk more about this later, but unfortunately for me, you learn Quebecois. You learn the French from Quebec when you're in the United States. And that it doesn't really go over well when you show up in France and try to talk to people. But as far as steps go, I picked up more French. My husband was finishing his bachelor's degree at the time, so he just finished that. And we started the process. It was a relatively easy and straightforward process to, qualify to come here because we took the student route. So my husband was wanting to get his master's degree, and I was wanting to get my PhD in neurosciences anyway. So we just started to do that here because it's universally just the easiest way to get to France that we found. So we did that, met the income requirements and everything, which are not that high. It's like 600 and some euro per month per person to support you through your studies. And we came over after that, and it was fine. But the visa process was a little annoying, but it wasn't confusing. So we had to, get all of our paperwork together as one does. Those of you listening some of you are probably expats, some of you probably know expats or are just introduced. You've probably heard a million times. It's a process. So we don't need to go through every minute little detail about that. But living where we lived in a less populated area of the U.S. kind of made it a headache because the French consulate in Seattle doesn't exist anymore. So the only place where we could go, and you have to physically go in person, to take your fingerprints and to do everything to, apply for your visa, was in San Francisco. So we had to go to San
Oh,
Francisco, which was cool. I love San Francisco, and it was my husband's first time there. And I had been there a lot, growing up and then periodically throughout my adult life. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, fun city to be in. But it is a little annoying when you have to go there specifically to do visa paperwork. And you have no recourse to, go home and make another appointment the next day if you mess it up. Because home is, 15 hours by car away and 2 states from you. So that was a little bit stressful, but it ended up being fine. The people were really nice. We went through all this trouble because the website said it has to be printed on A4 standard paper. And we were like, oh gosh, that's not the standard in the US. So we went through all this trouble to buy A4 paper. It's American letter is a slightly different size. Like A4 paper doesn't really exist in the US. So we had to order it internationally. And we printed everything on A4 paper and we showed up with this stuff printed on A4 paper. And the person at the visa was like, oh my gosh, nobody's ever done this before. You really don't have to do that. We were like, well, we didn't want to have to go back to Washington to print it on new paper and then come back to San Francisco in 3 months. So we figured it was fine.
that's actually a funny story. We only know letter in Europe because the default option in Microsoft Word is always letter when you want
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
print.